that we had an earthquake.
There was an earthquake
this afternoon
in north central Kansas. Maybe you thought somebody just had too much Taco Bell, but there was some real shaking up there, and we actually have a graphic showcasing that. It was in Saline County, just south of Salina at 2:15 this afternoon.
An earthquake in Kansas, magnitude 3.5. And now listen to this. It's above an area where there's ancient volcanoes buried deep underground, and where the US would have almost been torn into pieces. So that is central Kansas. Jolting, an area that is layered over ancient volcanic rock deep below the surface. Tremor happened just striking outside of Azaria. That's just home to a few hundred people, but this is a very, very strange occurrence. And this earthquake is associated with the Humboldt Fault zone. This is a major structural feature that is stretching across eastern Kansas. And this fault, the Humboldt fracture zone, is made up of a series of fractures, not only one. And a lot of buried faults have formed in this area hundreds of millions of years ago. So when magma, I said volcanoes, forced its way through the crust during that ancient time, it left behind hardened igneous rock and deep fractures that remain buried thousands of feet underground. So of course, Kansas right now has no active volcanoes, we know that, but the region marks the southern reach of the Midcontinent Rift System. Did you know that there is even a Midcontinent Rift System? This is a massive tectonic event that nearly split North America apart. Did you know that? So magma was forcing its way through there and really pushing the land apart. So the Humboldt Fault zone is relatively quiet compared with fault in more like seismically active regions, but it remains capable of producing small to moderate earthquakes when stress builds along these hidden fractures. And especially in the area where we've now seen the magnitude 3.5 in Azaria, there is like basically the fault intersects ancient layers of volcanic rock. Even minor shifts in the system can be detected at the surface, and they're very noticeable tremors for the people that live there. Also, the USGS has received quite a few reports from locals that said, well, they felt it. They said that the tremor sounded like a huge clap of thunder. So it has made quite an impression and quite a sound. They say it didn't last long, but it was very loud and very strong. But there's also reports from other people. They say, well, this earthquake was shaking my cars and my home. We have to say, many call it these fault lines, these rift zones, these are ancient scars from the Midcontinent Rift, but that still matters today, and especially the Humboldt Fault system still matters today because the North American plate is constantly under a slow moving stress. That's a fact. And as always, this pressure tends to concentrate then along pre-existing weaknesses in the crust, right, that we have here. And if enough strain builds up, the rock can suddenly slip, and that releases energy in form of seismic waves, an earthquake. This is what happened here. So the volcanoes that are there, they are long extinct, but the structural weakness they created more than 1 billion years ago is still there. If you combine that with the buried faults of the Humboldt Fault zone, this influences where and how earthquake activity occurs beneath the, we have to say, quiet normally Kansas plains. But the Humboldt Fault zone in Kansas is capable of producing moderate to potentially damaging earthquakes, so we shouldn't take that lightly. The largest known historical event along the fault is estimated to have occurred in 1867 with a magnitude between 5 and 5.5. And if that's a shallow earthquake, that can do damage. So of course, I said it, the Humboldt Fault zone is normally less active than more famous seismic zones that are nearby, like the New Madrid Fault. It is connected to the Nemaha Ridge. That is a major structural feature that also can still generate significant earthquakes. So scientists estimate right now that the fault could potentially produce an earthquake as strong as magnitude 6.5 to 6.7, but that is substantial, right? Thankfully, right now, the most recent activity has been smaller and also in some cases linked to human activity, such as wastewater injection. So there's many factors that come in play with this earthquake that we've seen here. So the Humboldt Fault system is still considered as a normal fault system, extends from Nebraska southwestward through most of Kansas, and it's characterized by a complex network of many faults. And we have normal faults, we have reverse faults, and we have strike slip faults. And basically that forms the eastern boundary of the Nemaha Ridge. And it is of significant geological importance. It's associated with the largest earthquake in Kansas's history, right? I mentioned it, the 1867 earthquake, 5.5. And that one was felt as far as Iowa. And we link it, of course, to the Midcontinent Rift System. So I want to tell you where that rift system, it extends from Lake Superior region into Kansas. It's basically a 900-mile long or 1,500 kilometers long middle rift that you see here on the map. So let's hope this will not result in anything larger. It doesn't look like this so far, but 3.5 of course is something that we have to notice, and especially in such an important historic area with the volcanoes and splitting North America apart. So I hope you were interested in that. So if you were, I hope you're interested in what I have chosen to put here in the end screen for you. Very interesting stuff that is going on. They're trying to build a barrier to try the biggest doomsday glacier the size of Florida to prevent it from exploding, so to speak, because it has a mechanical failure that is pretty bad for the whole world. So check out that video, but I have other stuff as well. So I would like to see you there in a second. Thanks for watching. If you want to support the channel, links are in the description. Thank you so much, guys. Stay safe, be prepared as always. See you there in a second. Bye.